Hi guys, welcome to part 6, the last part of the crochet-along. It's been a fun ride and I bet you can't wait to put everything together. I know I can't wait to see your finished project. In part 5 we made the eyes, the ears and the strap, and today we're putting everything together. Finishing our project is very exciting, and I also want to let you know that by finishing your project you can enter a giveaway to stand a chance to win one of 5 $100 shopping vouchers from Hobbii. All you need to do to enter is finish your project and then post a picture of it by the end of the day on the 28th of June on Facebook or Instagram, tag Hobbii and Projectarian and use the patterns hashtag. Subscribe so you don't miss the next project from Hobbii, and also subscribe to my channel for more projects. Let's dive in for the final time. Position an eye on the side of the head, about 3 rounds away from the muzzle and about 1 stitch away from the bridge. 1, 2, 3. And then place the eye and make sure there's 1 stitch above it between the bridge and the eye. The other important thing is to make sure that the eye is rotated correctly. So notice that we have an eyelid at the top which obscures some of the iris, and at the bottom the eye is just flat. Make sure that the eyelid is at the top of the eye. Also we have the reflection on this side pointing towards the back of the head. And then to make sure that the eye is level on the head, take a line from the middle of the muzzle to the back of the head. So technically you want to go from the magic ring of the muzzle to the middle of the sewn seam at the back of the head. And then you want to align the reflection in the eye with that line. And that's how you know that the eye is straight. So if I have it 3 rounds away from the muzzle, 1 stitch away from the muzzle, the eyelid is at the top, and the reflection is aligned with the head, then the eye is in the correct position. Then we can pin it in that spot. When you pin the eye, you want this bottom edge to be flat against the head. When we sew it, we're going to sew into these single crochets along the bottom of the eye, and when we get to the eyelid, we're going to sew into these unworked loops along the edge here. Then we can pin the other eye on the other side of the head, making sure it's symmetrical. Then we can sew the eyes in place. I'm going to sew along the bottom of the eye, sewing into every single crochet on the edge and making it very flat against the head. And when you sew the eyelid, sew into these unworked loops of round 4. When that's done, you can weave in the loose end and trim it. And then you can sew the other eye by the same method. The eyes are attached. Let's do the ears. Make sure the ears are folded with the right side out. Keep the chain at the top, and when you put the ear on the horse's left side, the loose end will be against the head. Position the ear about 3 rounds away from the eye. So there's 1, 2, 3. And position them so that the bottom of the ear is aligned with the middle of the eye. So if we place the ear there, we've got 3 rounds between the eye and the ear, and the bottom of the ear is level with the middle of the eye. Then we're going to pin the ear in place, and we basically want to pin this bottom portion of the ear that's touching the head. We want to pin that area in place. So it covers about 2 rounds horizontally and about 4 stitches. That doesn't need to be precise, so long as you've pinned this bottom portion of the ear to the head, and then we're going to sew that part of the ear to the head, and then we'll do the other ear the same. On the other ear, you need the sewing thread to be on your right hand side, so when you lay the ear on the head, the sewing thread is against the head. So first just weave the sewing thread in and out through the stitches to bring it up to the point where you need to start sewing, so that it looks like a mirror image of the first ear when you start sewing. When you pin the other ear, again make sure that it's right side out with the chain at the top. Fold it in half and you'll place it symmetrically to the other ear on the head. Just pin that bottom section of the ear onto the head. I'm starting off by sewing this part of the ear to the head. And when you're sewing ribbon onto ribbon, make sure to sew in between the strands of yarn rather than through an individual strand, because it will be very difficult or impossible to pull the strand through itself. I'm going to sew up here, attaching the back of the ear to the head in this area. I'm inserting my needle into the loops that are closest to the head on the ear, and then into the next closest loop on the head to sew each stitch. That ear attachment is complete. Now I can weave in the loose end. With this ear, we're starting off with our sewing thread all the way up here. So I'm just going to weave my sewing thread through the ear down to that area and then start sewing. Now we've got the sewing thread in the same starting position as the other ear, so now I'm going to sew it in the same way. The ears are attached, and now we can sew the magnetic button on. So I'm going to be using one of these embroidery needles that fits through the holes. Cut a strand of color H about 40 centimeters long, and then we can start sewing. I'll sew this part of the button first. Counting from the opening of the body downwards, I'm going to skip 6 rounds and put the button across rounds 7 to 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the button goes across these 2 rounds, leaving 1 coral round above the button. The other important thing is to make sure that the button is centered with the flap. Once you've got the position, you can attach the yarn to the body. I'm going to sew into the spot where I want the button to be. I'll leave myself a tail for weaving in, and I'm going to attach the yarn with a knot. Then I can sew the button in place. I'll sew in and out of one pair of holes and then transport my needle up to the next pair. Sew in and out of that pair. And do the same for each one. Once the button is attached, you can sew another knot. And then weave in both of these loose ends in a way that you can't see them. When that one's complete, we can sew the other half of the button onto the blanket flap. And we're going to put it on the second and third row away from the edge. So it'll be the first white and blue row, leaving the edge row open. Make sure this is right side up, meaning the button should be indented over here and not protruding. Then position it in the middle of the flap, and you'll sew it on by exactly the same method as the first one. The button attachment is complete, and we can move on to the next step. To attach the strap, first hook the chain space of the tail onto one of the lobster locks. Then you can hook the lock onto the D-ring and hook the other lock onto the other D-ring. And the project is complete. Congratulations on getting to the end of the crochet along. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited to see your finished project, so don't forget to post a picture, and remember that by posting a picture you can enter the giveaway to win one of 5 $100 shopping vouchers. All you need to do is post your finished project on Facebook or Instagram by the end of the day on the 28th of June. Remember to tag Hobbii and Projectarian and use the patterns hashtag. I want to say a big thank you to everybody who joined us for this crochet along. I really hope you guys had an amazing time. I know I had so much fun designing this pattern. I'd really love to hear from you. I would love to know what your favorite part was. What was your favorite thing that you learned? I would love to see pictures of you with your bag, and I would love to see you for another project. Also, a big thank you to Hobbii. I love working with Hobbii. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. I hope to see you all again, and until then, make sure you're following Hobbii to see what's coming up next. You can also join me on my platforms for more amigurumi fun. I hope to see you there.